Hey everyone, this is Richard from Richard Legends Board Game Fanatic, and today we're going to be going through setup and rules and basically the turns and actions of this new game, number 4 game of Board Game Geek called Ark Nova. It was published by Fuderland and CG Games, and it was produced by Matthias Rigi. Hope I pronounced his last name right, Rigi. So what we're going to do is going to show you how to set up the game, because this game has a lot going on. So we're going to show you the setup, and then we're going to go into the specific actions, how everything goes in a turn. All right, and then I will point out certain rules, and I will also bring up hints of what you can do, strategize when you're playing the game, thinking about things in the future, so you can get the maximum amount of points you can get. All right, so let's get to our setup. All right, so let's start setting this game up. First thing is we set our game board here. I have all the game trays here already set up, ready to go, with all the components that we need. We'll explain those components in a bit. The first thing we're going to do, normally, if you're doing a multiplayer game, you're going to set up your break track here. Depending on if you have 2, 3, or 4 players, you are going to put the brown token, this is a break token, and you're going to place it there. And what this is used for is to determine when our break turn is going to happen. But because we're doing a solo variant here, you use a other type card. This is the solo variant break track. And we place it here. I'll just place it on the side, and I place all different color token on all these squares. And basically, how break occurs is when I get all these on. Each time I do a turn, I'm going to move one of these to the right. And then the next turn, I move this to the right. And the next turn, I'm going to turn this to the right. And this one to this turn right. And after I move all these to the right, and this goes here, that's when I start my break. And we'll talk more about what a break is and so forth later on, but I just want you to understand, during the solo variant, we're not going to be using this track at all. So that's how I'm going to set that up. So I just set it up like that. We're ready for that. All right. Next thing we do is we take all these special tokens and bring them out. And we're going to kind of have them all face down. Alright. Then we're going to shuffle them. And then I'm going to take 4 of them. So you'll 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the rest of these will go back in the organizer and will not be used during the game. Where I place these, I'm placing these face up. I'll place them on these tracks here. And these are going to be taken during the conservation track here, this green track right here that goes around the board like this. That's one of the tracks you have to be considering, because the game, in a normal multiplayer game, the game ends when this token on this side is going to be moving this direction through the green spaces, and we're going to have a peel token here on this track. This is the peel track, and when they come and reach together, or wherever we go past, that's wherever that chance is. Whoever that person was that did that, the game stops at that point. That's the game end. But next 2 players get, if it's 2 or 3 players, get to do their turns first before we do the final scoring. So that's basically how this game is the object of the game is. All right, and we'll talk more about these tracks, because there's certain things that you maneuver or play that will make your token go this direction on the appeal track, and certain things will bring you this way on this conservation track. But you can see there's more spaces on the appeal than the conservation. Keep that in mind too, because if you do more conservation, on the conservation track, you get more shields, you're going to have probably a more quicker game, because you won't be developing much of the PO stuff, but you'll be developing all the conservation projects. So we'll kind of talk about that later. But that's just that. So we set those up. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is get the cards out. And I already shuffled them. We want to take time. Well, these all go onto this space with a lot of cards, man. A lot of variety in this game. A lot of replayability because you have a lot of different cards. Alright, and we're going to place these. These are all going to get placed face down at first until we set up our character maps, our zoo maps. So we just place these face down here. Okay. Alright, so that's done. Then we're going to set up our conservation map. And this is going to go on this side. And we need room for the cards on this side, and we need room for the cards on this side. Okay? So, basically how this works is we're going to place cards here. The basic conservation projects are going to be placed on this side. The ones on this side are going to be used when we play our own conservation projects. They're going to be placed on this side. Now, for 4 players, you're going to have all 4 rows done. For 3 players, it'll be all 3 rows, and then for 2 and solo, you're going to also do that. In solo play, I'll explain that in a second after we place the cards. So we're going to take our conservation projects, our basic ones, we're going to shuffle them. Alright. Do one real quick shuffle. And then we're going to place 3 of these on here. So we got reptiles. Alright. And Australia. And America. So now, one good thing to note is we're going to make points. So the good thing is you have Australia, Americas, the America continent, this Australia continent, you got 2 symbols there for that, and then also reptiles. So we probably want to build a lot of reptiles, maybe some from Australia would be good, and also some reptiles from America. So those are the 3 things we want to work on right at this point. We know those are the cards we want to probably get first. Alright, so then when we set that up, we're going to place our partner zoos, and you place by color, so it's going to be that one. This is your Australian one, we know. And then this, I think this is, one of these is Asia, one is, I don't know Europe, I think. And what do we need? We need a yellow and a blue. Yeah, I don't have blue yet. So, okay, so we place those there. Right, and then we're going to get some universities. We get 2, 1 of each. Right, here's the 5-1. And then the 2 microscopes. And that. Okay, so that's all good set. Alright, and then we're going to take our end around. We're going to shuffle those 2. Okay, and we'll put these on the side over here. Okay, we're all good there. Now, we're going to have, that's pretty much the global setup for our turn. So now we have to do the player setup. So basically we take one of these maps. It's recommended you use the Class A map, and the Class A map is the easiest one to start. And later on you can do the ones that have different levels. And they got special abilities on the bottom. Everyone's got a different one. So when you first start out, they all should be A, so you guys can get gist of the game. So that's basically, you set this up. The first thing you're going to do, you set that up. You're going to take these counters, these for your tracks, and you're going to place, first of all, your conservation track is going to get to 0. You're going to put a reputation track is going to be set to 1. And for the solitaire game, normally is going to be set to 20. So I will set the appeal track on 20. That is the easy one. They also say go down to 10 and to 0. But 0 is very, very hard to do because you have to meet at the middle. Normally they will be set 0, 1, and 2, depending if you have 3 players, or 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 players. Alright, so that's basically how you set up those counters, those tokens for the tracks. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to place 7 of your squares, or cubes as you say, on these spaces. And these are actions that you will get when you accomplish a conservation project. And you will place one of these on whatever conservation project you're placing on the one that you did on that card. You can only do one of those projects on each card, so that's why you have 7 total here. You could do more, but I don't think you're going to have enough opportunity to do it. The next thing we got is associated workers. You're going to have one in your notepad, and the rest of them get placed lying down here. And there's ways to get these on the tracks. So, or maybe by a card. So, we'll talk more about the cards and also the actions here in a bit. So, and then replace that. Then you just set aside the rest of these cubes near your board. Okay? So we're all set there. So the next thing we have to do is get our action cards. These are the ones that determine what we're doing at what time. So normally the first thing you do is you take your animal card, which you have, and it's going to be set to 1. And we'll explain what these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 correspond to in just a bit. Then you're going to randomly shuffle these cards, take a shuffle, and then you're going to basically put all the blue cards, you're going to go from left to right and randomly set them up. So, just like this. Okay? That's good, right there. One thing you do set up is you start with a 3-space enclosure to start the game, a free one. And the way you know it's open is when they have the yellow rings around this ring here is yellow, is a open enclosure. You can put an animal in there. If it's like green, it's already being used, so you can't use it. So we're going to place it as open there. Then you're going to get kayaks. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but these help with money during the break turn. And we're going to place this right here. So we place that right here. So we're already going to get income during the break on the first break. So we'll at least get 1 because this is touching this enclosure. So we get $1. Okay? We also get, to start the game, we get money. We get 25. So we get 2, 5, and 5. And you need money to purchase cars, so we'll explain that in a bit here. Okay. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to draw 8 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Everybody draws 8 cards. And then you look at your cards and you determine which 4 cards you want to keep. Alright? And let's see what I want to do here. Wow. Oh, here we go. These ones are going to be tough to use, but probably not. Maybe this one. Yeah. And let's see which one of these is the easier one to get. For now, I'll do this one here. And let's see, is that? That's 2, okay. And then these again, put it in the discard pile. Now, the rule is, when you put things in the discard pile, you cannot look at the discard pile. They'll face up anyway, but you cannot look at the pile. Those cards are gone for the rest of the game until we finish all these cards, and it's probably not going to finish. We're not going to finish those cards. All right. So I got my 4, and I will place them up. So I got 2 sponsored cards, an Adventure Playground and Zoo School, and I got 1 animal, a caracal, and and we'll explain these cards in a second here, how they work. I got 3 sponsored cards. I lied. Right here, 3 sponsored cards and 1 animal right now. Okay. So the next thing we do is we take 2 final round scoring cards. So I take those. But this one right here is in blue. It says do not use. Whenever you see a blue box in a solo variant, you never use those. So this one's going to get put in the discard pile. I grab another one. So I got one. So now I got large animal zoo. Gain shields for large animals in zoo. So that's another thing I want to work on. And I got aquatic park. And I gain shields for water icons in the zoo. Alright, for any animals that are part of the water and attached to that would be good. So it needs to be attached to an enclosure. Alright, so that's basically what I have to do there. And that's talking about the icons on the cards. Okay, so any animals that have water, that's one I want to work with large animals, but also I want to work on animals that have to use water. I could also do reptiles that use water, so that will help with this and that card. Okay, so that's pretty much. Let's see, is there anything else I need to do before we start playing this game or explaining the rules? No. Okay, so some insights. Whenever you play an animal, you will, or sponsor cards, sometimes you'll get appeal. And so mainly animal cards, some sponsor cards will have appeal. So you will get those to increase your appeal track. The main thing that's going to give you conservation on the conservation track are your conservation projects. So if you work on those, you're going to bring that thing a lot closer to your yellow marker for your appeal. So that's what we want to do. In a solo game, you want to make sure that you get this past that other marker. If you don't, you lose the game basically. It's done. You're done. But we have 6 turns after 6 breaks. And if we get to that point, and we should hopefully get to that point, but we'll try. We'll try to do it. Okay? Now, the next thing we have to talk about are the action cards and how and what they're used for. So, what we're going to do is we're first going to go with animals, and I will show you an animal card. Okay, so first the animal action card. With blue, it states play animal cards from your hand. Alright, so with the blue action card, you can only play animals from your hand. You cannot play them from the display. Okay? There's no way you can use the display with a blue card. Now, there's a way of upgrading cards, and through some of the tracks, you will have an opportunity to upgrade a card. So that would be a good idea for the animal card. So you could use the display, and you will see the cards face up and determine if those are the cards you want to use. And we'll explain how that works and so forth during gameplay. All right, but the numbers there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correspond to your zoo map, and wherever the position of this animal card is what will tell you how many cards you can play from your hand. For example, when you're on the 1 slot, you don't get to play any cards. 2, you will get to play 1. 3, you will get to play 1. 4 will be play 1, and when you have 5, you can play up to 2 cards. All right, but that also matters if you have the money to do it. Now let's talk about these animal cards. All right, the first one, the gong. Let's go through the left side first. It's very important. First thing it shows is a number 5 in a brown, like an octagon. That means you need to put this in a 5 enclosure. So you would have to build a 5 enclosure for this to play this card. It also needs 2 water spaces connected to it. So you would have to have 2 water hexagons adjacent to this 5 enclosure to use this card. Right? Also, this is also needs to be used when you upgrade your animal card. So an animal card has to be on the red side to use this card. Okay? So that's basically it. On the bottom there, it will have an action that you can do. And it's digging 4, so it's just choose up to 4 times discard 1 card from the display and replenish, or discard 1 card from your hand to draw 1 from the deck. Okay? So you could either choose up to 4 times, discard 1 card from the display and replenish, or discard 1 card from your hand to draw 1 from the deck. So you can just, it's basically replacing a card. Okay? So when you play this card, you also have some stuff you get done. This one gives you 1 conservation on a conservation track. So you go 1 space on the conservation track plus 9 appeal spaces. So when you place that card in your zoo, when you have that 5 enclosure already placed, then you could get those special things. Now on the right hand side, you also have a animal symbol and some continent symbols. This is Australia. So this would be a good card for us to play, all right, to complete that one of those projects, because that is 2 continents already. So you could play that and also get the 2 slot for the Australian project automatically. When you take this card, then you could go do your association turn and place one of your squares onto the Australian project, basic project, if you wanted to. Alright, the next one is the Nile crocodile, and this one it needs to be in a 5 enclosure with water adjacent to it, or you can be in the reptile special enclosure. If you get that, it takes 3 slots for that to be in that enclosure because it's a bigger animal. It costs 13 money to use it, plus you would already need to have 3 reptiles in your zoo to get this Nile crocodile. And this is I think this is South America or Africa. What is it? Oh, it's probably Africa. And also a reptile icon. So you would have those 2 icons for your zoo, and you would keep those for the rest of the game, and you would collect those. All right. Now the caracal is much simpler. He's got 2 enclosure with 9 money. He gets that's a predator, and it's also Africa. And they also, both of these cards have special abilities. And the Nile crocodile gets 9 appeal and 4 appeal for the caracal. Alright? Now some of these cards will have a blue box underneath these abilities. So if they do, those are what we're going to be using. We're not going to be using the main abilities on these cards because we're on a solo variant. You could also use the blue boxes to simplify the game for the people who are first playing this game for the first time. So you could decide if you're going to use the regular abilities or use the blue boxes. Okay? So that is the animal cards and also the animal blue side. Now let's flip over to the red side. Okay, so the red side, when you upgrade, you can play animal cards from your hand or from within repetition range with additional cost. So basically, right now we're set on 1, so we can only do slot 1. We have an African ostrich there. So that costs you 5 money. It's 5 enclosure. So 5 enclosure, it costs you 20 money to do it. But because it's in 4-1, it's going to also cost you an additional 1 money, so it's going to be 21 money to get that card. All right. So you would have to play that card after you purchase it. So you would have to have that enclosure ready. It's a 5 enclosure, or have the aviary to put it in there, and that's 4 enclosure, a special enclosure. All right, and now we take 4 slots in the aviary for that ostrich. Okay. Also, for number 5, it kind of changes what you can play. So if you're in 1, now you can play 1 animal card. 2 is 1, 3 is 2, 4 is 2, 5 is 2 also, but you also get a reputation to put on the reputation track. So a reputation track is important because where you're at determines what cards in display you can take. If you're on number 1, you cannot take the one from folder 2, 3, 4, or 5. Now, when you get to 4, that is for just the blue animal card. You'll be fine. You're up to 4, 3, 2, and 1 you can take. But 5 and 6 you cannot. 2 you upgrade this to the red card. And if you don't upgrade it, you can't go any further on the repetition track. That's as far as you can go. Alright? So that is basically an animal action. And those are the cards. So I hope you understand, and we'll explain the cards when I get them and when I'm playing and so forth during the game, so to make it more clear. Alright? So that's the first action. The next thing we're going to talk about is building. Alright, so next thing is the build action. And we'll talk, reason I came over here to the map, because I want to show you kind of how you place them after I explain this card. So it's on number 2 right now. It says build 1 building with the minimum size of X. Now they're talking about these numbers on the top, on the bottom of this zoom map, above these cards. So right now build is at 2, so we could build a 2 space enclosure. Okay, that's what it's saying. You pay 2 per space, so that would you would have to pay 4 money for a 2 space enclosure. And is available are the kayaks, the pavilion. The pavilion is used. You will move up 1 appeal every time you place 1. Okay. Then you have the standard enclosures that we have on there right now. That's the 3 enclosure we have set up. And then we have the petting zoo. And you can only get 1 petting zoo per zoo. So everybody who's playing can only have 1 petting zoo. And that's for petting animals. It's a special symbol for them. And when you place that, you can start placing them in that zoo. Okay. So that is the blue build action. You also, it says you can only place 1 building. So remember, you're restricted. You can only place 1. And when you place a building, you have to place it adjacent to another building. You cannot just place it in any part of the map. It has to be adjacent to a building. If it's you want to set up a building with water, it has to be adjacent to water. If it's a building that you want to set up for rocks, because you have a animal card that needs to go near rocks, you're going to set up near rocks. There are some spaces that show the type 2 on the map. You cannot place any buildings there till you upgrade the build action. Okay. Also, there's some yellow spaces. These are bonuses. When you place a tile on top of any of these bonuses, you get those immediately. All right. There's like 5 money, some X that we're going to talk about. X's. 2 reputation. 10 money. You also, there's one for one more association worker, and all kinds of things on the map. So just remember that. Talking about the coyotes, there's a specific rule. You can have one here, then you would have to place the next one 3 spaces away. It cannot be placed next to it. Okay? So if you decide to build another one, you have to be adjacent to another building 3 spaces away from the same coyotes. If you don't, you can't place it. All right. So let's go into the the type upgrade section. All right. So it says here, you can build 1 or more different buildings with the maximum total size of what your strength slot is. So that's going to be, right now it's 2, so you could build 2 1 enclosures, or you could build 1 2 enclosure right now. If you're at 5, you could build a 3 enclosure and a 2 enclosure, or a 5 enclosure, depending on what you want to do. And the same thing is space 2 per space. And then you also get added, newly available are your large bird aviary, that's 4, and reptile house is 5. So you could place those if you have this upgraded. Alright? Anything else on the buildings? I think that's it. Yep. Alright, cool. So, we'll put that back up. Now the next one we're going to talk about is association. Okay. So, I'm going to talk about the 2 upgrades, and then we'll go to the association board and we'll explain it. Association, it says here, perform 1 association task with the maximum value of X. It's the same thing like the buildings, so this would be at value 3. Okay? So you can do 1 associate action, only 1. Alright? And we'll explain the board here in a second. We'll go to the board after I finish explaining red. So if we upgrade this, you can perform 1 or more different associating tasks with the maximum total value of X. In addition, you may make a donation. You may play conservation project cards from within the reputation range, with additional costs. Okay? Sometimes conservation cards will be on the display. So, depending on where you're on the reputation track, if there's a conservation project that's say on 1, like we're placed now, we could play that card if we had this upgraded. But if it's not upgraded, you can only do the projects on the conservation on the association board. Excuse me. All right. So those are the 2 types of actions for the association, the upgraded and the blue. So we're going to flip back to blue. Now let's go check out the board, and I'll explain what goes on with the association board. Okay, so this is the association board. So like on your map, your zoo map, you have your strength values here. So for example, if you're on strength 2, you can do a 2 reputation action. And what you do is whatever available associating workers you have, you just place it on that space. Okay? And you will get those 2 reputations, and you move 2 spaces on the reputation track. Okay? Now, the thing about the association workers, they will not move out of these spaces till the next break. So you have to be very careful what you want to use it for, because you're not going to get it back to the next break. Alright? So it's going to be staying here. Now, if you have a 3 association, it's a number 3, you can get one of these partner zoos. And we talked about this, Australia and America. So you could do the Americas, or you can do the Australian for these specific projects that are out here. Okay, that would be probably a smart move. Okay, so that's for 3. If there's already a worker there, you will have to place another 2 workers to do another one. Okay, that doesn't matter if there's a different color work on there. No, that doesn't count. If you play one of your association workers there and you want to do another country, you will have to place 2 more workers, and then next one you'll have to place 3 more workers. And for example, you only have a total of 4 workers, so it's going to be impossible to do that. All right, but if you want to go to 4, you place it here, and this one will get you one of these universities. You can get the one with the 2 science icons, and those are important for sponsorships. Sometimes you need these in your Zoom app to do certain sponsors cards. You also have the one with 1 microscope and 2 reputation, and then you also get the one where you can have a total of 5 cards in your hand and 1 reputation. And what's it talking about, the 5 cards in your hand? Because normally during a break you will only get to have 3 cards in your hand during a break. So you will have to discard all the rest of the cards you have that you can't. You only can pick 3 cards. All right, till you get this 5 card university on this number 4 slot. And the last one is 5, and this one is to accomplish a project. Now you have to, when you go in that space, you will have to accomplish a project. If you can't accomplish any of these projects, you don't use that because it's a waste of a space or waste of association worker. Okay, but if you can, it's good for you because you move your conservation track up. Now the one on the left says 0. This is only used when you upgrade your association card, your action card, and this is your donation track. So every time you donate, you're going to first off also you donate at 2. So 2 money will give you 1 conservation space movement, and then the next one's going to be a little more. It's going to be 5 money, and you can do 2 of those. And then you got 7, and then you got 10, and then 12. So the next after that, you can do as many of those as 12 ones as possible. But we can do that. You basically place a cube, when you work your character cubes on these spaces to make sure that you know that you already took care of that. Okay, so that is your association action. Hope that I made it pretty much clear about it. We'll see more how this works during the playthrough, but that is it for that basic action. Alright, the cards action is basically first thing you do on a cards action is you can go break 2. Now for solo variant we're not going to use that, but normally when you're playing a multiplayer game, that means you're going to move the break marker 2 spaces when you do a cards action. Alright, now talking about drawing the cards. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to draw cards from the deck. It says draw cards from the deck. This is from the blue side. So the only time you randomly take the amount of cards that it stays on this table. So with 1 shrink slot, if it's on the 1 shrink slot, it's going to move. It's going to get one card you're going to draw, and then you're going to discard 1 out of your hand. Then 2, you're just going to draw 1 card. 3, you're going to draw 2 cards and discard 1. And then 4, you draw 2 cards. And then 5, you draw 3 cards, or 1 and 1 discard. Now, this one gives you an option. Now, number 5 is called snapping. Now, snapping means it doesn't matter what reputation you're at or whatever, but you can take 1 card from the display, the ones that are face up on the main board. It doesn't matter what reputation you have, whatever, but you can pick any card. Just one card though. You can't take 3 cards. You either take the 3 cards from the deck and 1 discard, or you do 1 card from the display. You can pick any card you want. Alright? So that's the blue side. Now we're going to talk about the red side. Okay. Now with the red side, it's of course break 2 first. Then you're going to draw cards from the reputation range. So wherever you're at, for example, we're at 1 right now. The only one we can take from there is 1. So this is dependent on the strength that you have. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Sorry about that. Whatever the strength is depends how many cards you get. So you can take 1 card either from the display or 1 from the. You're going to take 1 from the display on whatever reputation space you're on. You can take one of those cards. So right now we can only take 1. If we're at 2, we can take 2 or 1, and so forth. Okay. 2, same thing. It's going to be 2 cards and discard 1. 3 is going to be 2 cards, so you can take it from the display or the deck. 4 is 3 cards in 1, and 5 is 4 cards in 1. And also for 3, 4, and 5, you could also snap a card from any position on the main board. That's what snapping is for. Okay? You can snap, or you can just determine what cards you can pick from the display. Right now, we're going to take the 1 card. That's not really a good option. So that's something to think about for that. But that's what a card action is used for, to get more cards in your deck. Now remember, you start getting like 6, 7 cards, by the end of when the break starts, you're going to have to discard 4 cards, because you only can have 3. Except if you get the university before then, and then you can have 5 cards instead of 3. Okay, like we talked about on the association board. Alright, so that is the cards action. Now we're going to talk about sponsors. Now sponsors, you get to play sponsors. They're going to go in the same, they're going to go into your zoo also. So the animals and your zoo, your sponsors will be placed in the same piles. Alright, so you get to play 1 sponsor card from the maximum level of X. So right now we're at 5, so we could play any card that has a 5 value. Or less. If we're at 4 or less, 3 or less, 2 and less, whatever. You know, it makes sense, right? Or if you don't have a sponsor card, you can do a break for that many spaces. So if you're at 5, you get to move the break 5 spaces. Alright? And you gain the amount of gold, whatever value you have. So at my point, I could get 5 gold right automatically from that turn, and I would move the break. But that's not going to happen on the solo game. The break is any cards that tell you to do a break, you can just ignore it when you do a solo variant. The rest of the when you do a multiplayer game, that is totally used. The break track is used. I don't know how I can vary that much, but that's basically how it works. All right. So then the red, if we upgrade the sponsor card, you play 1 or more sponsor cards with a maximum total level of X. So that means this will be 5 plus 1, so you get 6 from your hand. So it'll be a 6 strength value from your hand or from within repetition range with additional costs. And the same goes like with the animals. Whatever the cost is for the sponsorship, it would be 2 gold or whatever folder it's in. That's what you're going to have to pay. And if there's extra cost to buy the card, you would have to pay that too. Alright. So, or you can break 5 spaces and gain 2 times the amount. So that'd be 10 gold. So if you're in an upgraded condition, you can get 10 total gold. Alright? So those are the actions. I hope that's pretty much explains how this works. I'll explain it more when we do the playthrough. Alright, and Oh, the last thing we need to talk about is the X tokens, and we'll talk about it just in a few minutes. In our notepad here, I just put a X token. We don't start with any X tokens, but these are kind of useful. So these will give you +1 for any strength value or on any action that you're doing. So, for example, if your association is at 3 like it was, you would use that and it would give you 4. Okay? Or if you wanted to play a sponsor level card, but you could do, that's right. For sponsors, we are at 5. There will be sponsor cards that will be at 6. So you would have to have an extra X to compensate for that. So you have 5 plus 6. Or if you have your card upgrade, you really don't have to worry about it because you already have 6. So during the blues phase, the blue card action for sponsors, then you would have to use an X to compensate for that extra strength value you needed to develop that sponsored card. All right. So that's what the X for. So you can do a X action. All right. So there is an extra action that's not shown on the board. It's called the X action, and you basically can, if you don't have anything you can do on any of the actions underneath the map, you could also just get an X token out of the supply. So you will have one available for your next card if you want to do that. So that would be your action for that turn. Okay? So that's the 6th action that you can do during your turn. Okay? So that is pretty much the explanation of the game in general, and we'll talk more about other things that happen during the game. But that's the general rules, the general setup, and how the actions go. So you'll get more into it when we get into the playthrough, and that'll be on our next video. I hope you, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section so I can answer them to you. Or if I made a mistake, please bring that up to my attention. Okay? Thank you. I hope I kind of explained the rules somewhat clearly and about the actions and stuff. I'm going to flip this back over when you get started. But there's a lot going on this board. You can see that. So I hope I kind of you got the gist of how this works and so forth. We'll get more into it when we do the playthrough, I promise you. And I will go through each card I play, and I'll explain it step by step. If I go too fast, I hope I don't. I'm going to try to go as slow as possible. Not too slow because it'll get boring. But yeah. But otherwise, wait, let me put this back. I don't got this yet. I want to cheat. But I also want to make a comment about the rule book. It's really good. That's where I learned most of the rules from. It does have a glossary that is a kind of quick reference. It has some of the information. It also has a lot of the cards in here that you may need to know. They'll explain. It basically explains what you're supposed to do for these cards if you want to look them up. And also special tokens that are in here that we will explain those while you play. And then what's great is on the cards they have icons, right? So they basically got an icon card on both sides of different icons, so you can kind of get a gist. If you see an icon you don't understand, you can try to look it up this on here. Most of them on here, so it's a good reference tool also. Okay. Otherwise, that is our episode for the setup rules of Ark Nova. Our next episode will be the playthrough, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative. I didn't want to bore you during the playthrough, so I tried to split it in 2 spots. So at least people who are going to get this game kind of got a gist of a review of the rules and so forth. And you'll see more of it in the playthrough. Hopefully I don't mess up during the playthrough, during the solo, but I think I got everything down pat. So if I go slow and I do everything I should be doing, we'll be okay. So thank you guys for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you want to see more of my videos when I make them, please hit the notification button. Also, please put those comments and suggestions in there, positive or negative. I don't care what they are. I just need to know how you feel about my channel, so I can improve this channel. That's another thing that's very important to me. So, hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you on the playthrough. Take care, guys. Bye.